All right, so today we have a very special guest joining us. The 2002 first overall pick by the Columbus Blue Jackets, 2003 Maurice Rocket Richard winner with 41 goals, 2003 first team all rookie selection, six-time All-Star, Columbus Blue Jackets franchise leader in goals, games played, assists, points, game-winning goals, and power play goals. And now the current director of player development for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the captain, number 61, Rick Nash.
Thank you.
So my first question to you, Rick, is what is the most interesting thing you've learned in the front office that you never realized as a player?
Yeah, it was a quite an eye-opening position to come into the front office after being a player for so long. You really don't realize how much goes into the front office, not only on the hockey side, but on the business side as well. Whether it's sponsorships, ticket sales, marketing, so much goes into it. When you're a player, you just kind of have to worry about what's going on, that day, whether it's a practice day or a game day. And you kind of worry about yourself. And then as captain, you kind of worry about, your team and your players. But I'm telling you, being on the front office side, there are so many things that goes into running an organization. And then you just kind of get the umbrella of the hockey ops, and whether it's working on contracts, whether it's working on your farm system, whether it's doing cap space stuff. It's crazy, and I think that was the biggest eye opener thing for me.
Yeah, so like with that, the Eichel trade just went down this morning to Vegas, and I know that's kind of a cap thing because a lot of teams wanted his salary to retain, mostly in Buffalo, to make that deal easier. Was that a hard thing for? Even say Columbus, because I know as a fan of the Jackets, I wanted the Jackets to get Eichel, but would that have been a hard thing to get the whole salary cap deal done with Eichel?
Yeah, well, it's funny, all these 32 NHL teams have, a few guys in each organizations that are just based on the cap. And, these are number guys, and they're hockey guys too, but they're guys that know the cap and know the ways around it. And obviously when we traded, Nick and Savard, these are things that got to get taken into consideration. So Stanley Cup contending teams can fit their guys under the cap. So like I said, with the Eichel trade and with trades you're going to see in the future and in the past, you got to realize that these organizations, these NHL franchises, have guys working in their front office that are just watching the caps.
Yeah. So with that, talk about Stanley Cup contention and all that stuff. What did you expect from the Jackets team this year, going into the year? So preseason, and then what are you expecting as of now? The way they played, really well so far, 6-3 through the first 9 games. Eye-opening to a lot of teams. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's been impressive so far. Obviously, as we went through the summer, and as our general manager Jarmo Kekalainen and our president of hockey ops John Davidson, kind of expressed to our fans that we're going to be going through a reload here, and we traded away some household names in the Columbus area and some good people and some great hockey players. But, we felt like it was time to kind of let the new blood come in and take over this organization. So, as for expectations, you always expect to be competitive each game and win a Stanley Cup. But we also like to be realistic here and know where we are as an organization. And sometimes that takes time when you're in a reload. So, we come into camp and there's a lot of spots open and a lot of ice time to be grabbed. And I thought our guys were great through Traverse City rookie tournament. And then moving into training camp, we had a good preseason. We had a good camp where our coach Brad Larson worked them hard. And then we get into the start of the season and the guys seem to be playing together. So expectations, I think we expect them to show up every night, work hard. And when you do that, sometimes the hard work beats talent. And it's been impressive so far for our start, when internally we think we're getting our young team going.
Yeah, and like you said, young team. The Jackets are the youngest team in the league right now. They're averaging 25 years in age per player. So, with that, like you said, Traverse City went undefeated in Traverse City. That wasn't really expected, I feel like. What did you think of the prospects? Is this? The future is obviously bright in Columbus, but how bright is the future? What are your realistic expectations for this team?
Yeah, you know what? As I'm learning in the front office, it is tough to project, these players. And you got to think when our scouts are going to watch these guys at 16, 17 years old, and we're drafting them into the NHL at 18. And then, in some cases like Cole playing at 18, it's so hard to project where they're going to be when they're 21, 22. And, we put a lot of trust in our scouts to figure out who those guys are. And then, then it kind of gets handed over to the development team to help with that and try to make them good pros on the ice and off the ice as well. But Traverse City was great. I mean, these guys all came together and they played as a team and they followed the system that the coaches put in front of them. To project where our young guys are and where we are in a reload is tough to do, but we believe in what we're doing. And, we're trying to make these guys the best Blue Jacket players they can be. But something that I'm learning, back to your first question, is what's been eye-opening is trying to project talent. I mean, it's tough, and I have a whole new appreciation for all the scouts all over the world that are going to see 20 plus games a month and trying to project these kids to be pros, and then all these development coaches that are trying to turn them into great hockey players. There's a whole process put forward, and I truly believe that we're doing it the right way, but as a lot of people say, time will tell.
Yeah, and like you said, there's a system to each team, and there's a system you got to play. So how different was that system this summer when it changes into Brad Larson's hands rather than John Tortorella's? I know Tortorella is a famous coach. I mean, everyone, they love to say Tortorella is one of the greatest coaches of all time. You lose that, and you turn into Brad Larson, this young guy who's never been a head coach before. How different is that system to play in?
Yeah, so it's obviously been a little bit different internally in the system. Just to say a few words about Torts first, I had him as a coach, and he's a great coach. He's a great person, and he's a legend in the hockey world. And you don't really fill a voice like that when John Tortorella leaves your team. But it was time for a change on both sides, and I think both sides agreed to that. And you got a rookie coach that comes in for his first head coaching in the NHL, and I'll tell you, he's been very impressive. As for system things, I think it's important that you have the guys that have been here for a while, like a Boone Jenner or Bjorkstrand, and these guys to get a fresh voice in the room, and try to get more out of their guys after a coach has been hanging around for 4 or 5 years. So, system wise, we had a assistant coach come in from Winnipeg, Pascal Vincent. And he's had some really creative things that he's done. You kind of change your forecheck, you change your back check, you change your neutral zone game plans, and you try to adapt to what other teams are doing, and you also watch what the best teams are doing, and how they're winning Stanley Cups and President's trophies, and you also look at your personnel and see what your team can handle. So with Brad coming in, there has been a lot of changes, but you still need that message of you need your best players to be your best players, and you need everyone to put forth a great effort.
Yeah, so like you said, bringing in Coach Vincent from Winnipeg, like I might be making something out of nothing here, but was that maybe a move to kind of make Line more comfortable? I mean, he was a Winnipeg guy. He's obviously one of the best players on the team. When he has the puck, he's really skilled. Is that maybe a move to help him out a little bit too?
Well, for sure. They've already built that relationship and they have that trust made. And same with Jack Roslovic. Obviously, Jack was there with Pazzi in Manitoba and up with the big club in Winnipeg. So you definitely take those things into consideration when you're going through the interview process of how your coaches will adapt to the players you have. And it seemed to be a pretty seamless fit with Pazzi. But in saying that too, these guys are professional athletes. They have to adapt to the situation and the coaches that you bring in, and mainly, Brad gets to kind of put that coaching staff together. He's the main boss down on the bench now, so you have to figure out ways to make him comfortable. But that was definitely one of the keys that you touched on, was having those relationships with a couple of guys that we have, former Jets.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know you've obviously been a captain for the Jackets before. How easy was that transition from a guy like Foligno to a guy like Boone Jenner? I mean, they don't play the same game, but they're the same kind of guy. Like hard work beats talent, like you said earlier. How seamless was that transition from Nick to Boone?
Yeah, well, I think it starts that Boone's such a well-respected guy in the room. He kind of leads by example, and you see the games that have already been played this year, and he's a guy that can kind of put the team on his back and say to them, follow me, and I'll be the hardest working guy on the ice, going to all the hard areas, scoring the dirty goals, whatever it takes. So there's always an adjustment when you get a new voice in the room. I don't think there's a right way to be the best leader you can. There's just individual ways. Everyone leads in different ways, and like I said, since Boone has it, the only thing you have to be careful of is that you don't change as a person. There's a reason why Boone is well respected in the organization and around the league, and it's because he's honest to himself, and that's kind of what he's been doing since he's got the C on his jersey. So, guys respect him, and you watch guys interviews and how much they look up to him, how much they want to follow him, and it was with Nicky being one of the best captains of all time around. What he did on the ice, what he did off the ice was very impressive. To have Boone come in, he's got some big shoes to fill, but those are his own shoes. He's got to worry about himself and his own team, because it's a different team than when Nicky had it, than when I had it, and he's been doing a great job with it.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's a different team. You had a lot different team than a guy like Adam Foote had. You had a lot different team than a guy like Foligno had. You're gonna have a different team that Boone's gonna have. How different does the, I guess, aura around being a captain change depending on like what team you're in? So like, I guess a better question would be, how much pressure is on a team that's competitive versus a team that's rebuilding when you're the captain?
Yeah, well, there could be pressure both ways. If your team's supposed to win the Stanley Cup or go far in the playoffs, then the captain has to be a leader. And if you're a team that has a bunch of young guys and you're in a reload and you want to develop these guys, then it's just as much pressure not to not to kind of steer them in the wrong direction. I think with Boone in the position he's in, he's a personable guy. He's a guy that can answer questions guys feel comfortable going to. So, there's never going to be leaders that are the exact same. Every captain that I've played with or that, I've had on my team has always been different. And I think you truly got to find what's right for you and how you lead.
Yeah. So, I mean, speaking of leaders right now, who's someone who's really surprised you right now through the first couple games for the Jackets? Who stuck out to you?
Yeah, well, I think Cole Sillinger has been, he's playing a more mature and older game than his age, and he's been impressive from when he first got to Columbus and started skating in practices and going to rookie tournament and through training camp. I think he's been very good, and I think another one is that Jake Bean. We kind of got him in the Seth Jones deal, and he was a player that I can tell you our scouts had their eye on for a long time. And, he's come in and he had a great preseason. I thought some nights he was our best D man. So those two guys have really stuck out to me.
Yeah. So with that, I mean, like Sillinger, like you said, Bean, Gregory Hoffman, Yegor Chinikov. How impressed are you guys? How impressed are you with these guys so far early in the season in their early careers? Like you said earlier, it's hard to project talent, but how talented could these guys really be?
Yeah, Chinikov has been really impressive. He had a great Traverse City, scored a goal in the preseason. It'll take some time for him to get to be a regular player in the NHL and get that ice time up, to double digits and close to 20 minutes. But yeah, when we're talking about projecting skill, I mean, you got to give our scouts credit on this pick. Obviously not too many people knew who he was when we took him. It was interesting, but the scouts were confident and they put their own names on the line to get a guy like that. With Gregory Hoffman, he's been a guy that's been very good at the world stage and in the Swiss League for a long time. He's obviously an older guy, but he's proved himself, overseas, and now he wants to try to prove himself in the best league in the world. And in my opinion, he's been our hardest working, best skating forward some nights in these NHL regular season games, and he brings an energy and a pace that some guys on other teams can't keep up with. So it's only been a dozen games or a handful of games so far, so it's tough to really get a good gauge. But if you're looking at the first couple of weeks, it's been really positive.
Yeah. So, I mean, other guys I see in the system too, Kirill Marchenko and Kent Johnson, two, I mean, very highly prized prospects right now in the Jackets organization. What's the timeline on those guys? And like, how are they playing right now at their current stages?
Yeah, so Marchenko came out of the gates really hot and was scoring at a crazy pace. And for my job, I'm lucky enough to be working alongside with Yarko Ruutu, who handles a lot of our European development and Russian development. And we try to stay in touch as much as possible to keep tabs. But I saw Kirill last year twice overseas, and or it would have been 2 years ago overseas, and he's got all the tools. He's a bigger guy. He's got a great shot. Moving on to Kent, I've seen Kent a handful of times this year in Ann Arbor, and he's got all the skill in the world, and we're really excited about him. He's had a good start to the season. He's playing on a very talented Michigan team, but he's a 5th overall pick, and we have big plans with him. So we're going to try to develop him the right way, but he's been very impressive.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And thank you again, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rick Nash.
Thank you for having me. That was fun.